You've spent years educating yourself. You read the books, listen to the experts, engage with the complex ideas. You've worked hard to cultivate wisdom, and yet when you look around, you see people you know, people who should know better, falling for the most absurd ideas. You wonder, why? How can intelligent people with degrees, logic, and critical thinking skills, follow ideas that seem so clearly flawed? Why do we all sometimes embrace ridiculous beliefs, even when we know they don't stand up to reason? Why do people cling to the lies they want to believe, even in the face of overwhelming evidence? This is the problem Nietzsche warned us about. In fact, he called it the will to power, a force that drives people to shape reality to their own desires. But there's more to it than just raw ambition. There's something deeper, something insidious, that makes intelligent people fall for dumb ideas. It's a hidden force within us all, and it's called motivated reasoning. We like to think of ourselves as rational beings. We believe we make decisions based on logic, on clear thinking, and on facts. But what if the truth is much darker? What if our reasoning isn't so much about discovering truth, but about confirming what we already want to believe? What if we are all subconsciously looking for ways to reinforce our biases, our desires, and our fears? Think about it for a moment. How many times have you caught yourself reading a news article or listening to a podcast, nodding along as the speaker tells you exactly what you wanted to hear? Even when you know that the argument is thin, that the evidence is cherry-picked, that the conclusions are drawn with little to no regard for truth, you still want to believe it. Why? This isn't about ignorance, this is about a desire for confirmation. It's about a psychological need to feel right, even at the cost of truth. You see, motivated reasoning isn't something we do intentionally. It's a psychological mechanism, almost a reflex. When we encounter new information, we don't start with a blank slate. No, we start with pre-existing beliefs, emotions, and desires that shape the way we process what we're being told. When a piece of information challenges those beliefs, we don't simply consider it objectively. Instead, we start asking questions like, does this fit with what I already think? Does this make me feel better about my views? Can I twist this to support what I already believe? This is the very essence of motivated reasoning. It's not about truth, it's about us. It's about maintaining our sense of self, our identity, and our place in the world. But why does this affect educated people? People who are supposed to be logical and rational. Nietzsche gave us part of the answer. He observed that human beings are driven more by their instincts, their desires, and their fears than they are by pure reason. The philosopher argued that reason is not a tool of objective truth, but a tool of self-justification. We use logic and evidence to convince ourselves of the conclusions we already want to believe. Consider this. You might be the most educated person in the room, but that doesn't mean you're immune to this bias. In fact, education can sometimes make it worse. The more you know, the more sophisticated your justifications become. Your mind can weave an intricate web of arguments and rationalizations that allow you to hold on to beliefs that are, frankly, irrational. Nietzsche's insight here was profound. We are not as rational as we think. In fact, we are deeply irrational beings, driven by internal forces far beyond logic or reason. Our beliefs are often shaped by emotional, social, and psychological needs. Not by evidence or sound reasoning. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're a successful business person who has spent years building your company. You've worked hard to get where you are, and your success is a source of pride. Now, imagine someone, maybe a younger, less experienced person, comes along and challenges the way you've been doing things. They tell you that you need to adapt, to change, to innovate. What's your immediate reaction? Are you open to their ideas? Or do you feel defensive, maybe even angry, at the suggestion that you might be wrong? If you're like most people, your first instinct isn't to listen objectively. It's to defend your own position, to protect your own identity. You might dismiss their ideas even if they're right, simply because acknowledging them would mean admitting that you were wrong. This is motivated reasoning in action. It's not about the facts or the logic. It's about protecting your own sense of self, your own worldview. So, what happens when this psychological tendency plays out on a larger scale? In a society when enough people are driven by motivated reasoning, we end up with whole groups of people following ideas that are objectively dangerous, harmful, or downright stupid. They don't follow these ideas because they are irrational. They follow them because those ideas confirm something deeper, a desire for comfort, certainty, and belonging. This explains how conspiracy theories, populist leaders, and divisive ideologies can take root in educated societies. People want to belong, to feel secure in their worldview, even if that worldview is built on lies. They don't want to see the truth, because the truth would be uncomfortable. It would require them to challenge their deeply held beliefs, to risk feeling uncertain, vulnerable, and wrong, and so they follow ideas that make them feel safe. They embrace simplistic explanations, charismatic leaders, and convenient narratives that fit into their emotional and psychological needs. Let me ask you, how many of your beliefs are shaped by this same pattern? We'd like to think of ourselves as immune to this kind of thinking. We pride ourselves on our objectivity, on our education, on our ability to think critically. But if we're honest with ourselves, we all fall prey to motivated reasoning. We all have a psychological need to feel right, to be validated, to protect our identities, and here's the uncomfortable truth. This isn't just something other people do. This is something we all do, often without realizing it. So, what can we do about it? The first step is to become aware of it. Awareness is the key. We must learn to recognize when we're falling into motivated reasoning, when we're clinging to ideas not because they're true, but because they make us feel good or right. This doesn't mean we abandon all our beliefs, but it does mean we become more open to questioning them, to challenging them, and to accepting that we don't always have the full picture. Nietzsche warned us that reason is often just a tool we use to justify our desires. But he also believed in the potential for self-overcoming, the ability to transcend our biases, our instincts, and our false justifications. By becoming aware of our psychological patterns, we can start to break free from the shackles of motivated reasoning. This is the journey of true wisdom, not the pursuit of more knowledge, but the willingness to question everything we think we know. And so, the next time you find yourself following a dumb idea, whether it's a trend, a political view, or a deeply held belief, ask yourself, is this really true? Or am I just justifying it because it makes me feel good? Because, as Nietzsche might say, the greatest danger is not being deceived by others. The greatest danger is deceiving ourselves.